Hey, everybody, welcome to the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and I'm joined today by Ben down San Diego way.
Howdy.
What's really hood, bitch?
I'm in this little family trip to Los Angeles today. I did not see any sighting or proof of the Battle of Los Angeles from 1942. They covered it up pretty well in the past 80 years.
We did an episode on that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about suppressed or government suppressed technologies. And it kind of leads into conspiracies and stuff like that because of some recent events, like the mass shooting at the Buffalo, New York store. Say there was a former New York police officer in that store who just so happened to have built in his garage a hydrogen-powered internal combustion car.
Well, that is news to me. I have to admit that.
And somehow, magically, this guy was in the store at the time of the shooting. And he was one of the ones that died.
That is insane. That's the first time I'm hearing that.
So it's in my humble opinion, this guy was the target, and the rest of the victims just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay, let's I'd love to hear more about this chappie. It sounds like
Well, honestly, that's really all I know about this guy. He was African American. He built this car in his garage to run on compressed hydrogen gas. Don't know how he did it. I know it ran and drove, and that's really all I know about it.
Let's see.
But that's not the only thing we're going to get into today. We also got anti-gravity devices and 0-point energy.
Perfect.
Either that, or we could just have a bullshit session. I don't know. I don't really know. I didn't really have a lot of time to do a lot of reading. I did pull up some articles, but
let's dive into those articles.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Oh goodness. Hold on. Trying to eliminate some of this noise in here. It's getting retarded now.
Well, I mean, just briefly, the only cop that I see killed.
He was a former cop.
Aaron, yeah, that's what I mean. Ex-cop Aaron Salter Jr. killed while firing at Buffalo shooter. So his name was, apparently that's the cop being referenced here. And what did you say the vehicle was that he was working upon?
No, he built a car in his garage that runs on hydrogen. He made YouTube videos building the car.
Wait, so let's talk about that. Slain Buffalo officer, yeah, was a genius. Worked on water-fueled car engine.
Yeah, but the water through electrolysis and an electrolyte added to the water to speed up the process of the electrolysis. Basically, you fill the car up with your garden hose. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So the car itself, the batteries in the car provide the direct current to perform the electrolysis process, to separate oxygen and hydrogen from the water molecules. The hydrogen is collected in a separate tank, and that fuel is used to run the motor. So the fuel is hydrogen.
Crazy. Well, I mean, it says that it says his invention was patented, so like I wonder what they were trying to prevent if it was patented.
Well, if he held the patent, then doesn't that even if he dies, doesn't that stop other companies from using his patent, at least for a certain amount of time?
That's an interesting thought now, because
So now he's dead, so he can't start his own company, but the patent is still valid, so nobody can use it for a certain amount of time.
that's an interesting idea. What happens if patent holder dies? I did not think about that.
Because it's the same thing with prescription drugs. Like if there's a patent on a drug, and it's a name, obviously the name brand drug, and then nobody else can make that drug for a certain amount of time until the patent kind of runs out, and then they start coming out with generic forms of the same drug for cheaper. You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm seeing some suggestions generically that the patent could pass along to the estate. But then again, if I don't know if, like, at that point, his family, even if it does pass to the estate, like his family might not be interested in that, might just, what if a generous donor comes along and is like, I'll pay you this for this invention or whatever, or this patent. So
Yeah, check this out. He's not the only one. This guy in the 90s, mysterious death of Stanley Meyer and his water-powered car. Stan Meyer car with a water-powered engine. Meyer's invention promised a revolution in the automotive industry. It worked through an electric water fuel cell, which divided any kind of water, including salt water, into its fundamental elements of hydrogen and oxygen by utilizing a process far simpler than the electrolysis method. So it didn't use electrolysis, it used some other type of method. So despite skepticism about the legitimacy of a car that runs on water, Meyer was able to patent his invention under Section 101 of the Subject Matter Eligibility Index, meaning he proved to a patent review board that his invention worked reliably. So Meyer's water-powered engine was the result of 20 years of research and dedication, and he claimed it was capable of converting tap water into enough hydrogen fuel to drive his car from one end of the country to the other. His invention was mind-boggling and promised a future of non-polluting vehicles that could be refueled with a garden hose. Now, his death. On March 21st, 1998, Meyer was having lunch at a Cracker Barrel with his brother and two potential Belgian investors.
Not waffles.
Huh?
Not waffles, but investors.
No, investors. The four clinked their glasses to toast their commitment to uplifting the world, but after taking a sip of his cranberry juice, Meyer clutched his throat, sprang to his feet, and ran outside. Rushing after him, his brother Stefan found him down on his knees, vomiting violently. He quickly muttered his last words: "They poisoned me." Meyer's death was investigated for 3 months, though it was eventually written on the coroner's report that he died of a cerebral aneurysm. I'm pretty sure that aneurysms don't cause you to fucking clutch your throat and vomit. and then like right after you have a sip of cranberry juice.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people have aneurysms. Typically, they just go unconscious, go into convulsions, and then they never wake up.
Yeah, that's
So that's two people both creating a similar invention who both ended up dead. Now, there's a very good reason why these people ended up dead, because this invention would put the oil industry pretty much out of business.
yeah, I mean, look, oil. I was just reading an article. What was it? I think it was like the oil industry basically has a $3 billion a day profit margin.
Yeah.
Like when you think of all the vehicles filling up across the world, all the systems requiring oil. I mean, obviously, oil is in plastics as well, plastic manufacturing. I mean, it's it's insane.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, though.
Yeah,
If
and
you,
they've had a $3 billion a day. They've had this was 3 days ago, 3 billion a day, $3 billion a day profits for last 50 years.
look, here's the thing. If you're an inventor and you create a number one, a fuel creation, like a way to create fuel this way, just go ahead and sell it for an insane amount of money to an oil company and just make your money and walk away, because you're going to end up dead. And if you create an engine that runs on said fuel, go ahead and sell it, sell the patent, sell the design, whatever, to one of the major auto manufacturers in the United States or anywhere else. Make your obscene amount of money and walk away, because you're going to end up dead.
Well, and here's the thing from CNBC. Elon Musk says that, and this was 2019, February 23rd, updated February 24th. Elon Musk says the tech is mind-bogglingly stupid, but hydrogen cars may yet threaten Tesla.
Yeah, but look, the tech is not stupid.
Well, I mean, he's known.
Here's the thing, look, if you let's just say you don't have the car that runs on water, okay? You have a car that runs on hydrogen. Now, instead of hold on a minute, I gotta do something real quick just so I can keep track of what I'm doing here. All right, so you have a car, your basic internal combustion engine will run on hydrogen with some minor modifications, unless you have an old car that's carbureted. If you have a carbureted car, you could run that shit on hydrogen with almost no modifications. At least not to the mechanical workings of the engine. If you have which everybody does now, a fuel injected engine, it's going to be a little different. So obviously your fuel rails, your injectors, all that shit would have to be changed out from a liquid system to a compressed gas system, which shouldn't be too incredibly difficult to do. You swap out your injectors for solenoid valves. You have some pressure lines for the rails to feed the injectors, and you have a compressed gas, an armored compressed gas cylinder that holds hydrogen gas, because it would have to be armored, because in a collision you want that shit to stay intact, because if it doesn't stay intact, you're driving a giant bomb. But
Right.
it would have to be armored in some way to where it could never possibly be punctured. So, but yeah, the modifications you would need to a fuel injected engine would be pretty minor.
Well, and here's
Probably a few $1,000 to make it run, and maybe
and here's
some computer programming wizardry in the car's computer. But
well, and here's
other
the
than that,
thing,
it's fine.
because he says that, well, and this is 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, so obviously technology changes, but well, he said that hydrogen fuel cell vehicles success is simply not possible. A 2017 survey of 1,000 global auto executives concluded hydrogen fuel cell technology will ultimately outperform battery-powered electric vehicles. Now that's electric. It's funny how they skipped over oil.
Well, yeah,
Oil.
hydrogen fuel cells are something entirely different from what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay,
they've come out with hydrogen fuel cell cars before. Like they've come out with them before. They were never mass produced, but there are some of them on the road.
because
Yeah,
petrol.
they've been out for a while. The technology's been around for a while, but the hydrogen fuel cells, they create like electricity somehow. I don't know how it works, but your car is not running on hydrogen gas. It's not burning fuel to run. It's some type of an electrical process that gives it's kind of like an electric car. It runs on electricity, but it's a hydrogen fuel cell powering it. It's fucking weird, but I wouldn't trust that either. But like I said, it'd be way cheaper and way cleaner to run your car on hydrogen. It just would be. You replace your gas tank with a compressed. We do the same thing with a lot of these like trash vehicles and even some big rig semi trucks and stuff. They run on compressed natural gas. It's really the same thing. It's a compressed gas fuel system. It's the same shit. We have the technology to do it. The only difference is instead of natural gas, you're using hydrogen gas. Same fucking thing. Am I wrong?
No, you're on it. You're on it.
Yep. And not only that, hydrogen is probably the cleanest burning fuel source you'll find in the entire universe. You burn hydrogen, the only byproducts you get are water. And water is then collected, put into a small tank where the electrolysis process begins, and you get more hydrogen out of it. And then you burn that and you get more water, and the cycle continues. I don't understand. If these politicians and these liberal environmentalist weenies were serious about clean energy, they'd be looking into this technology and they'd be mass producing it with a quickness if they were so worried about the climate. But they're obviously not serious people.
So there's like a 22, almost a 24-year difference between 22-year difference between the death of this Stanley Meyer and the killing of this ex-cop in Buffalo. So it's like, what are they? I mean, he has a patent, but now it's just either with his estate or something else has happened.
Well, yeah. Literally, this technology, if it were to be mainstreamed and mass produced, would put the oil industry out of business, along with probably coal, wind and solar, and everything else. With hydrogen gas, if we started using it the way we already know how to use compressed gases as a fuel source, it would put everything else out of business because it would be cleaner and more efficient than anything else.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of other people commenting about this Aaron Salter Jr. Especially like people should just type his name in on Twitter, for example, like Aaron Salter plus water. I mean, apparently, according to this one person, the week before he was shot and killed, he was on the news explaining it, meaning the
He
patent
was.
on a car that would run on water. Just a week before.
Yeah. And then you got the guy in 1998 that got poisoned with a glass of cranberry juice, which he had a similar invention. So obviously they don't want this technology getting out.
Yeah, this one guy responded, Stanley Meyer invented a device that can make a car run on water, mysteriously died. Aaron Salter also invented a device that can do the same. He was a victim in the recent Buffalo tragedy. I don't know who is listening, but my mother-in-law is also inventing the same device.
Well, I mean, Ben, imagine this, okay?
This is funny.
Not only is this technology critical for us right now assuming if these people are serious and they want to get away from fossil fuels, which I think ultimately in the long run it would be a good idea to do that. But
resource.
But it's also critical, this type of technology, for space exploration and colonization. If we wanted to, let's say we want to put a colony on Mars, this technology would be perfect. Just for power generation. You can find hydrogen everywhere in the entire universe. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
You could run a power plant on hydrogen. And then you collect the water that's produced when you burn it, and you make more hydrogen with it. So you got a repeating cycle of hydrogen production and burning. And it would give colonists on another planet electricity they could do other shit with, right?
Right. Yeah, so let's talk about the suppression aspect then real quick, because again, I'm very interested in the life of this Aaron Salter, this pretty ingenious guy, right? I'm sure he must have been aware of I imagine he must have been aware of Stanley Meyer's work if he's inventing a similar device.
Or maybe he wasn't, because that's why he did it and got himself killed for it.
You'd have to think somewhere along because he said he's been working on this sort of thing for a decade. So I don't know how you wouldn't at least be aware that, oh, this guy 20 years ago was working on this. But someone responded, because this person tweeted about how sad it is about this man being killed, about, he was working on this vehicle when he was killed. And this person responded, this gives some insight as to why someone would drive 200 miles to pick this particular store. If you think I'm crazy, research all the inventors of alternative combustion vehicles. They seem to die or disappear in alarming numbers. So I thought the shooter was local. Maybe I'm wrong.
That damn Sasquatch.
Well, Buffalo shooter. Now I'm just curious if he really drove 200 miles.
He did.
He did?
He drove a long way to get to that store, to that particular store.
Isn't it? How far did there it is. Oh my God. I thought he was local.
No.
And he attacked the store that day?
No, I'm telling you, this guy was what was that CIA program where they created assassins with their torture and drug use and all that shit for mind control? MK Ultra or Manchurian Candidate or
Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah, where basically they give the guy a target and they say a keyword and there you have it. And he just he says whatever his trigger word is, his handler says it to him over the phone or in person or whatever, and he just goes into kill mode.
Yep, because I agree with this person right here. First of all, that's why I believe he was not alone in this, meaning the shooter. He had some big wheels behind him, I believe.
Wait, has this guy been heard in court yet? The killer?
Um,
Does he deny having any memory of what happened, or what he did, or was he? This
that's a
guy was
really good.
captured, right? He wasn't killed.
Yeah, he was captured. Yeah,
Yeah. So did he deny having any memory of what he had done?
that's a very interesting question.
Because most of these people, when they do these types of things, the Manchurian candidate types, they don't remember any of it.
All right, he had arraignment 5 days ago, so this past week. He pled not guilty to federal hate crimes charges that could be punishable by the death penalty. Peyton Gendron, let's see, so he silent during the brief arraignment, attorney, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to,
Yeah, but on what grounds did he claim his not guilty status?
I mean, that's not really what you do at an arraignment. You just plead guilty or not guilty. And
Okay, so
then
he hasn't been
you,
questioned at all then, or none of his questioning
I
has come
mean,
out.
yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a trial with witnesses and documentary, discovery. I will be interested in, okay, so we'll find out more about that at the trial if that's what his defense is going to be. And so we'll keep an eye out if he says anything about memory issues, I guess, right?
Yeah, like if he doesn't fucking remember anything, that would be really interesting to know because
So here's my one question. I mean, why wouldn't they just kill this guy at his house?
the killer or
No,
oh,
the inventor.
I could tell you why. Because they needed it to look like he wasn't the target. They needed it to look like a random act of violence.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, it would be too weird if every one of these people that invent something like this get murdered or poisoned or somehow accidentally die at their homes every time. It would start to look suspicious that way. This way, it looks like a random fucking hate crime by a white supremacist, right? So
Yeah.
it looks like he wasn't the target at all.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, look, there's a lot of people who are talking about this very issue.
I'm such a conspiracy theorist.
Well, no, it's conspiracy realist, honestly. Like
I mean,
this world.
I'm not reading anything right now. I'm just going off of my head.
No, I mean, well, this was the thought for a lot of people, like I said, and actually I need to go back to this one quote I saw. And again, this was on a kind of a liberal black page, but some of them seem to be aware of the situation, digging a little deeper than just, oh, he was just a random victim. Because this person wrote, the media isn't even asking why that particular black community, because that was in response to him driving 200 miles or more to attack this particular black community. Shades of MK Ultra and the Manchurian candidate. And I'm like, that's exactly what the hell this is.
Looks like it.
200 miles to commit a so-called random shooting? It doesn't make sense. It is said that the shooter had a manifesto, and perhaps he did, but there are still some unanswered questions. I think Mr. Salter was watched and followed carefully. It wouldn't surprise me if the alleged shooter, damn it. And again, this person on Twitter, he's been spot on because that person kind of dropped their comment. But basically, I think they were going to finish this saying, like, if the alleged shooter was in cahoots with other people. And this person responded, his manifesto was mostly plagiarized and sloppily done. He looks like someone set him up to be a patsy. That's crazy. Yeah, this man was targeted. You're absolutely right.
Well, I downloaded this PDF for a 0 point energy device, but it appears to be either in German or some kind of a Norwegian Dutch language, so won't be able to read it. I think it's German. Yeah, that's German.
Yeah, because Dutch is like a weird combination of German and like Flemish.
Yeah, this is like Und der Reisen, der Liederbieden, der Oden, der Pain in the Assenheimer. Und your Gottam Farzer a Stinken und a Schmellenheimer.
The aneurysmus.
That's from The Pest. You ever see that movie, The Pest, with John Leguizamo?
No, I missed
Old
that.
ass movie. That's funny as hell.
I can't stand that guy, honestly.
Yeah, but he was funny when he was younger.
True. Though he had a good role as Benny Blanco, too.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Hydrogen fueled internal combustion engines. Yeah. The threat posed by climate change and the striving for security of energy supply are issues high on the political agenda these days. Governments are putting strategic plans into motion to decrease primary energy use, take carbon out of fuels, and facilitate modal shifts. Taking a prominent place in these strategic plans is hydrogen as a future energy carrier. A number of manufacturers are now releasing demonstration vehicles to consumers using hydrogen-fueled internal combustion engines, as well as fuel cell vehicles. I'd rather get the internal combustion version. So developing countries in particular are pushing for hydrogen internal combustion engines powering 2 and 3-wheelers, as well as passenger cars and buses, to decrease local pollution at an affordable cost. Yep. Introduction. The current way of providing the world's energy demand based primarily on fossil fuel is becoming increasingly untenable. Fossil fuel reserves, once hardly ever given a second thought, now are clearly exhaustible. Fossil fuel prices have never been more volatile, influenced first by economic acceleration, mostly in China and India, and subsequently by economic recession. The difficulty of controlling prices and uncertain reserves are strong incentives for pursuing energy security. Global warming and local pollution hotspots associated with fossil fuel usage are further significant environmental and societal problems. These are strong drivers for research development, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Where's the actual fucking meat and potatoes? Section snippets, physical and chemical properties of hydrogen relevant to engines. Yeah, that's easy. It's flammable and explosive. Hydrogen fuel air mixtures, blah, blah, blah. Modeling regular combustion. The following sections discuss the efforts undertaken to analyze the model abnormal combustion. Same properties that make hydrogen such a desirable fuel for internal combustion engines also bear responsibility for abnormal combustion events associated with hydrogen. In particular, the wide flammability limits, low required ignition energy, and high flame speeds can result in undesired combustion phenomena, generally summarized as combustion anomalies. These anomalies include surface ignition and backfiring, as well as auto ignition. Surface ignition is used here to denote. Yeah, so measures for engine design, blah, 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 blah. So basically they got this fucking shit all worked out. This is a lot of jargon.
Like there's always boilerplate.
Yeah, so basically what they were just saying right there, what I was just reading was they're saying the hydrogen is tricky, so everything's got to be just right. Otherwise you'll get random fucking fires and like your engine firing pistons, you'll get random spontaneous firings and backfires and whatever. So everything's got to be just right for it to work properly. But the great thing about hydrogen is it doesn't need to burn efficiently, because whether it burns efficiently or not, there's no pollution.
Right.
As
Yeah,
long as it fires, you're good to go.
I'm curious if there was any, because obviously the Buffalo shooting was pretty recently. Other gentleman was 1998. I'm wondering if his brother is still passing on the message of his brother's killer, so to speak. Brother's death. I mean,
I
that's
doubt it. That guy's probably in a nut house or locked away somewhere else where he can't cause any trouble.
Stanley Meyer. And now I'm just curious if
His brother's name was Stefan. If you want to look him up, what happened to him. Stefan Meyer.
what did Stephen Meyer find Meyer do? Oh, okay.
What do we got here?
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's probably gonna be hard to find him. All right. I mean, yeah, it's something maybe happened to him too. Who knows?
So apparently there's a heavy duty version of a hydrogen fuel internal combustion engine that's under trial currently in Canada, in Vancouver. Yeah, Westport Fuel Systems yesterday, the 10th of March. So when was this? Is there a date on this? So this was March of last year. Confirmed the successful startup and trials. It's a new engine that utilizes the company's patented and proprietary high pressure direct injection hydrogen 2.0 system. Commenting on the development, David Johnson, CEO of Westport Fuel Systems, said, "We believe hydrogen direct injection could be extremely compelling with near zero greenhouse gas emission and much lower cost than fuel cell vehicles or battery electric vehicles, particularly for heavy duty trucking and other high load applications like mining, marine, and rail." So they're talking about running these in trains. So obviously you get plenty of explosive power from detonating hydrogen gas to run just about anything you need. Trains, semi trucks, boats, ships, whatever you need. And actually that'd be a great fuel for a ship, because if the ship needs to refuel, all it needs to do is turn its exterior pumps on, pump in some salt water from the ocean, and make its own fuel with it. So that'd be great for ships, especially Navy vessels that got to be out for long periods of time.
Ooh, didn't think about that. Nice.
Right? And that would do away with the need for nuclear reactors on some of these enormous aircraft carriers and submarines that they have out for long periods of time as well.
So apparently Canada, because back in January 19th, apparently Canada and Taiwan have an agreement on hydrogen fuel cells. So watch out Taiwan.
I don't like that fuel cell technology shit though. It seems obsolete already, even though it's not completely out yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'd much rather burn the fuel, the hydrogen, than have it in some kind of a weird fucking closed system cell where it creates electricity to run electric motors. I don't understand the point of that. The electric motors, I don't know. I mean, even with Teslas, like I like Teslas, sorta. It's just the idea of running something that sounds like a George Jetson fucking little spaceship. You know what I mean? It's annoying. I want something that makes some fucking noise, man. Look, when you're driving a car, don't you like to hear the motor? I like to hear it. I want the noise. I want the sound. I want the experience and the feel when I'm driving. You know what I mean? I want this little when you're driving. What's the point of that? That's not fun. You gotta enjoy it a little bit when you're driving your vehicle. You know,
Well,
that's why I like V8s. V8s sound mean and awesome.
Well, it sounds like, yeah, I mean, that whole situation of, excuse me, the second inventor is pretty astonishing, to be frank, because again, going 200 miles out of your way to, like, there are black people all along the way, you know, if that was his intention, and he just decides to drive 200 miles out of his way for no good reason and kill random black people at a grocery store that day. That just, to me, is bizarro.
Yeah, but just imagine this. Imagine this. You take this technology and you completely do away with the need for large power plants. Every house in America has a tiny little power generator that runs on tap water that powers their entire house. And all you got is a water bill. We don't need coal power plants. We don't need nuclear. We don't need any of that anymore. Every house comes equipped with a small hydrogen powered generator.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Imagine
talking kind of a revolution right there.
Yeah.
Technology,
But here's the
economic.
thing. It would put the current energy industry, as well as oil and coal and nuclear and all of them, put them all out of business.
I mean, the thing is, if it works, which then all they would have to do is rededicate some of their billions to that and make even more money, though. I mean, it's like, okay, hey man, we like your design.
But then they got
Here's
to figure out what they're going to do with all that nuclear material they have sitting in their nuclear power plants all over the place. And actually, there's an answer to that already. They've is a company here in California, I think up in Silicon Valley somewhere, I don't remember, but they've made these batteries that they actually make them out of nuclear waste. And look, these batteries, they're not your typical battery. It's not, I mean, I don't even think it can be considered a battery per se, because these batteries create their own power instead of storing power, because batteries traditionally store power.
right.
Where these batteries make their own power. Now, with a radioactive element housed in close proximity to a diamond creates electricity. And they've turned this into a battery that will last anywhere between 10 and 15,000 years. And they're talking about they're going to produce these batteries in standard sizes, AA, AAA, D, 9 volt, and even for cell phones and other devices like that. So imagine you never have to charge your cell phone or you never have to charge your electric car.
Yeah, but what happens if you get into an accident with your nuclear battery?
Yeah, that could be an issue.
Like,
You know what?
No,
But it's a new technology and it's a good idea. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, safety standards and innovations are going to come into effect. But I think small scale and in the short term, um, the AAA, AA, D, 9 volt, and cell phones, I think that that's probably where it's going to come out first. Probably more for cell phones than anything else, and it's going to be a high dollar too. I mean, you're talking like probably a pair of AA's for those are probably going to be in the $1,000 to $1,500 range. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, the safety features will be every car is limited to 25 miles per hour, and they have large inflatable like bumpers all around them, so there's no collisions.
No, they'll probably do, they'll probably have them the battery cell, whatever it is, wherever the batteries are housed in the vehicle, will probably be completely encased in some kind of armor that's lead or titanium or platinum lined, something that'll block the radiation. I mean, that's probably how they do it.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be some intimate process involved.
Yeah. I mean, in the individual battery cells themselves, they're already shielded. Like the prototype batteries they have that they've made already, it's already shielded. Like I guess the radiation that does manage to get through is actually lower than background radiation, like your standard natural radiation that you experience every day. So they say it's completely safe, like even in a cell phone, like keep it in your pocket and it's not going to damage you. So I don't know, but I think it's a good idea because look, we need to find something to do with all this nuclear waste that we have from all these power plants.
Personally, I like the idea of an old Superman cartoon where Superman flew all the nukes and tossed them right into the sun.
Right?
I mean, I hate nukes. It terrifies me to this day. I'm not some crazed lefty. I just hate the idea of destroying human life multiple times over.
Yeah, but
Or
we're not talking about nuclear weapons here. We're talking about power plants. And all the power plants are making nuclear waste. And that nuclear waste could then be repurposed to make batteries,
well, no, I mean,
which I think is a great idea.
no, in that case, no. Just like I'm freaked out by the idea of like runoff, like cracks in the foundations, like happened in New Mexico several years ago, or some of it leaked out. Like,
Yeah.
my fear is the water table is being affected. So,
Could be.
yeah, I mean, no, I agree. Obviously, something needs to happen. So, I mean, this sounds
But
like a
if
step in the
if
right
they could take all the nuclear waste and they can mass produce these batteries that, I mean, you buy, like you say, you buy a 4-pack of AA batteries, these type, you never have to buy another battery again. Yeah, they're expensive out of pocket right up front, but imagine all the money you'll save over your lifetime and your children's and your grandchildren's, going down 30 or 40 generations with the same batteries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm surprised they haven't been killed yet. Maybe it wasn't seen as much of a threat.
Well, this is a bigger, actually, this project was probably government funded. I mean, they probably got permission to research this. I mean, to start off with. So, these 2 people that were killed for creating hydrogen or water powered cars were working at home on their own cognizance. So, yeah, they had to be disposed of.
That's a good point. All right. Any about like zero gravity? Any juicy stuff on that as it pertains to suppression?
Yeah, there is some. I don't. So we'll go with the Wikipedia page first. Antigravity, also known as non-gravitational field, is a hypothetical phenomenon of creating a place or object that is free from the force of gravity. Does not refer to the lack of weight under gravity experienced in free fall or orbit, or to balancing the force of gravity with some other force, such as electromagnetism or aerodynamic lift. Antigravity is a recurring concept in science fiction. Examples are the gravity blocking substance cavorite in The First Men in the Moon, and spin dizzy machines, and blah, 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 blah. Antigravity is often used to refer to devices that look as if they reverse gravity, even though they operate through other means, such as lifters, which fly in the air by moving air with electromagnetic fields. Blah, blah, blah. That's Wikipedia.
Yeah. Take
So,
British home.
the truth is, the military has been researching anti-gravity for nearly 70 years. It sounds like science fiction, but the military began working to overcome and harness gravity in the 1950s. From what we can tell, it never stopped. Brett Tingley, whoever the fuck this guy is. Decades-old questions about the potential existence of fantastical anti-gravity propulsion technologies have resurfaced following the Navy's own disclosure of encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena and our own original reporting on a series of bizarre patents assigned to the U.S. Navy that seem to defy our current understanding of physics and aerospace propulsion. While the discussion continues over whether any such technologies are feasible, the truth is that the theoretical concepts behind them are anything but new. In fact, the U.S. military and the federal government have been formally researching these radical concepts since the 1950s. And according to our own research, those efforts have continued on to this very day. In our drive into what seems like something out of a bottomless rabbit hole of government studies into this exotic scientific realm, we have collected a body of research, news reports, and first-hand accounts. These establish the fact that the types of anti-gravity, propellantless propulsion, and mass reduction technologies described in the Navy's recent UFO patents are at least based on more than 60 years of peer-reviewed research conducted and published by the likes of the American Institute of Physics, NASA, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astroaeronautics, and the Air Force Research Laboratory. While we can't say any of this research led to actually being what the fuck? Fucking kids with their Microsoft bullshit. Anyway, while we can't say that any of this research led to actually being able to harness anti-gravity or extremely advanced next-generation propulsion technologies to any useful extent, the most advanced laboratories under the control of both the armed forces and the academic world have certainly been trying their best to get there for the better part of a century. Also, keep in mind that all of this information comes from unclassified sources, and there is definitely more of it than just what is represented here. We can only wonder how much work has been done in the classified realm. Makes sense. So, in terms of the Air Force's early anti-gravity research, on intriguing firsthand account from Dr. Lewis Whitten, who was professor of physics at the University of Cincinnati from 1968 to 91. Throughout his career, Whitten conducted research into gravitation, quantum gravity, and general relativity. The last one of these is the theory first put forward by Albert Einstein that proposes that gravity is essentially a warp or curve in the geometry of space-time caused by mass. During a roundtable discussion titled Recollections of the Relativistic Aerophysics Revolution, held at the 27th Texas Symposium on Relativistic Aerophysics. In 2013, Witten recounted his own work on what he somewhat puzzlingly referred to as the discovery of antigravity. In his portion of the roundtable, Witten recalls being recruited by George S. Trimble, then serving as vice president for aviation and advanced propulsion systems at the Glenn L. Martin Company, which evolved first into Martin Marietta and eventually merged with Lockheed in 1995 to form Lockheed Martin. The project for which Witten was recruited would come to be known as the Research Institute for Advanced Studies and was officially founded in 1955 by George Bunker, president of Martin, with the goal of advancing aerospace science and development. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, despite, I don't see anything here yet. Some of them were very simple ideas. Simple ideas are always hard to combat. Suppose somebody comes to you and says, I have a rack of bismuth that demonstrates anti-gravity. What do? There was a vice president of the Martin Company who brought that up. He said, I read about a guy in Indiana who says a rock of bismuth. Who says a rock of bismuth? I said, it's nonsense. He said, how do you know it's nonsense? How do you know there's no isotope of bismuth that shows anti-gravity? What do you say to that? What the fuck's this all about? Oh, 2 hours. Fuck you. Right, Ben?
What's the 2 hours for?
A video.
Oh, no, thank you.
Exactly.
I mean, unless pertinent parts can be, extracted, obviously.
Yeah, I don't have time to read all this. Conquest of gravity, aim of top scientists, anti-gravity.
Yep.
All right. Well, I mean, we went over most of this in our secret space program episode, especially the Solar Warden one, the Navy's secret space program. But
here's an interesting message from someone. Well, it was a tweet, but it was in March 16, 2020. So it's did Dr. Greer just casually assert that the U.S. military has anti-gravity craft in that Washington abduction story? Am I the only one surprised by this statement? And someone responded, he's actually been talking about how sequestered U.S. military programs in conjunction with paperclip scientists mastered what he calls electrogravitics back to October of 1954 for some time.
Ben,
So, yeah,
it's gravitics.
gravitics.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Electrogravitics.
Well, you got a pretty mouth.
It's not his fault he can't read. That's what everybody's always saying to me, so I wanted to take that opportunity.
I'm glad I could provide that to you, that satisfaction.
Especially Ronnie. Ronnie's always saying that to me. You can't read worth a shit.
That's the first time I've ever seen that combination of words. So,
What? You can't read worth a shit?
no, electrogravitics. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, so I mean, apparently there's a design that the Navy holds that was obtained by a crashed UFO, Element 115 or Red Mercury, or I think the other name for it, the official name for it is like Moscovium, because it was discovered in Russia, so they named it after Moscow, like Moscovium or some shit. Apparently, if it's super cooled, like if it's kept super cold with some type of refrigeration system, and it's contained in quickly rotating magnetic field, like super fast, it reduces the mass of everything within its sphere of influence by like 80 or 85, 90%. So like if you're standing in its sphere of influence and you weigh, 100 pounds, all of a sudden when you turn that bitch on, you weigh 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the anti-gravity propulsion, is that the reduction of mass. Then you can use other means to get yourself off the ground. But there's other shit that goes into it too, but that's just one thing that I remember reading about.
Well, apparently you said Moscovium, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Because there is an element known as element 115 called Moscovium.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if it. So I mean, is that the what they say is power? Wait, what was its relation to anti-gravity, allegedly?
It's not really anti-gravity. It's a mass reduction.
Oh, mass production. Okay.
So element 115 kept at almost absolute zero and housed inside of some type of a fast rotating magnetic field creates it's like a mass reduction device. So it make whatever it's attached to that's within its sphere of influence, all of a sudden its weight is reduced by like 90%.
Damn.
Don't know if it's real or not, but I remember reading about it. So that's what I'm saying. And that's why that's why they say the UFOs can do all these crazy maneuvers and changes of direction and quick accelerations that make no sense, because the G forces supposedly should crush anybody that's inside of that ship. The reason the G forces don't crush them is because they don't weigh anything.
Interesting. Wow.
If you don't have any mass because of this device, then there's no mass to crush. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the idea. Yeah. Technical report. Is this the same article I was on? I think it is. Yeah, it is. Fuck that. Resonance-based technology may provide inertial mass reduction. So like the same type of thing. This is what I was just talking about. Literally the same shit. So these US Navy patents, big future. If these US Navy patents are made, then we are in a Star Trek technology world. So, yeah. I don't know what this is. You got a power source, pulsed current source, and then you got another power source down here, insulator core with a wire wrap around it. So sounds to me like some sort of a magnet, right?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. Doesn't look very complicated. So Salvatore Caesar Pace is a U.S. Navy researcher. Salvatore has 3 amazing patents that would be incredible breakthroughs in physics if they are true. The least extreme is a patent for piezoelectricity, induced room temperature superconductor. The other two patents are gravity wave generator and inertial mass reduction. If these could be realized as technologies, then we are talking Star Trek level spaceships. The gravitational wave generator could be used for propellantless propulsion to near the speed of light. Being able to reduce inertia would also mean capabilities which currently seem beyond known physics. The more likely situation is that these will not lead anywhere and are incorrect. So these are the actual patent numbers for each one of these. So these things are patented, and you can't get anything patented if you can't prove that it, at least in theory, works, right? I don't know how the patent shit works, but can you patent something that's complete bullshit?
That's an interesting thought. Because I thought.
Don't you have to demonstrate and prove that it works to get a patent?
I mean, obviously, you have to have schematics. You have to have diagrams. Do patents require tests? Not parents, damn it. I hate autocorrect. Fucking autocorrect. Yeah, look, if you are thinking of patenting your invention, U.S. law requires the invention to pass through a series of tests. So, I mean, that's a straight up.
And these are all US patents. So 2019, 2017, and 2016.
The test examines 3 areas: utility, novelty, and obviousness. So,
yeah, so piezoelectricity, induced room temperature superconductor. The room temperature superconductivity is achieved from abrupt/accelerated vibration of a wire through the use of a pulsed current through the wire. High frequency gravitational wave generator. A high frequency gravitational wave generator, including a gas-filled shell with an outer shell surface, microwave emitters, sound generators, and acoustic vibration resonant gas-filled cavities. The outer shell surface is electrically charged and vibrated by the microwave emitters to generate a first electromagnetic field. The acoustic vibration resonant gas-filled cavities each have a cavity surface that can be electrically charged and vibrated by acoustic energy from sound generators, such that a second electromagnetic field is generated. The two acoustic vibration resonant gas-filled cavities are able to counterspin relative to each other to provide stability and propagating gravitational field fluctuations, which are generated when the second electromagnetic field propagates through the first electromagnetic field. So these two magnetic fields compete with each other and they don't cancel each other out. They almost reverse each other in the middle. It turns into some type of a gravitational wave shift, something or other.
yeah, on this topic, there seems to, especially its relation to suppression, unwritten mystery is advanced anti-gravity technology being suppressed. Now, this is from October 20th, 2020. Yeah, 2020. Anti-gravity technology has been known for decades to those who know where to look for the right information. Let's see. One of the pioneering researchers of anti-gravity, and the name we will discuss today is Otis Carr. I don't know if you came across that name.
Yep. We brought him up in the Secret Space Program episode.
That's right. So what do we know about the advanced anti-gravity technology and how the government suppressed it?
Well, they just made him look like a nut and threw him in prison for SEC violations and all that shit. So they made him disappear by making him look like a crackpot and then turning him into a criminal.
Holy smokes, I've never heard about this, but this article just talks about it. Apparently there's a black budget. Okay. Like off the,
You didn't know about that? The black budget?
like with the 21 trillion missing dollars.
I don't know about 21 trillion, but there is a black budget for the U.S. Defense Department every year.
Well, I know there's black budgets.
That goes to, yeah, it all goes to, what do they call them? The top secret shit, the special access programs or something like that, what they call them, where only people that need to know about them know about them. Not even the president knows about most of these things.
Holy, but this is in 2019, January 9th, 2019. Forbes is a major publication. Whatever people might think about its contents, it is major. This guy from the University of Michigan wrote about 21 trillion in federal government transactions in the DoD and HUD, Housing and Urban Development, that funds that were described as undocumented and unexplained.
Hold on a minute. You said HUD? What the fuck
Yeah.
would HUD have to do with any of this with the Defense Department? Housing and urban development? How are they involved in any of this?
I mean, that's what these researchers from the University of Michigan, apparently they picked up, because the contributor, his name is Lawrence Kotlikoff.
A Russian? Or is it Polak?
Professor of economics. Oh wait, no, he was co-authoring with Mark Skidmore, a professor of economics at Michigan State University. And even in 2017, they co-authored a piece, Has Our Government Spent $21 trillion of our money without telling us?
Is there any indication as to the timeline? Because 21 trillion, I mean, that's like almost like 2 times our GDP.
Let me, yeah, because this was his column writing about.
I think our total like tax revenue every year is what, like 13 trillion, something like that. 13 or 15, in that range, what the government has to spend without borrowing. So
here's what he says. The 21 trillion in undocumentable transactions do not reflect actual unauthorized spending. Well, despite our efforts as well as those as Dave Lindorf, our government has not shared any underlying data or information regarding the nature of this undocumentable transactions. So I guess they're saying it's not necessarily unauthorized, but it's undocumentable. So they've spent it according to these researchers, but they're not explaining how it was spent.
well, if the money was spent on special access programs, they don't have to explain how it was spent. And if my hunch is right, I think that this report of 21 trillion, it probably goes all the way back to, it's probably combined total since the black budget was started, which was probably shortly after World War II. So I mean, over the last 80, 90 years, it's not that big of a stretch to think they spent 21 trillion on special access programs.
Which a report like that from, I mean, again, people can think what they want about professors from mainstream universities, like them or not, they're still there. The fact that they would put their name on articles, and maybe he's tenured, I don't know, so his ass is safe, comfortable regardless of the outcome.
Nobody's safe when they're talking about these types of programs.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be the president talking shit about these types of programs and get your ass whacked. I mean, shit, fucking it happened to Kennedy.
True enough.
No reason to think it couldn't happen to a Harvard professor or wherever this guy's from. So,
but to go back to Carr, because of course he was active back in the 50s, 40s and 50s.
well, he was a protege of Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, there it is.
So
he's a pioneer in construction of extremely innovative technologies for his time, resembling flying saucers. That's right. So now this story's coming back to life to me. When he demonstrated the flying saucer he built on December 7th, 1957.
yeah, except it wasn't a saucer. It was a different shape.
Well, that's just the terminology they're using for it, claiming that there was artificial gravitational field called the Karato gravity motor that did not use fuel. And that's right, 2 weeks after the last test flight, his program was canceled. Federal agents apparently confiscated the equipment and documentation. According to them, Carr's project would collapse the U.S. monetary system.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? And I've brought this up during this podcast a couple of times. You know that the book Battlefield Earth? I don't think you've read it, but I have. I've read it a bunch of times.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard. No, I haven't read it.
So this guy, he wrote in the book basically like the Cyclos, which are the aliens that invaded Earth, took over, 1,000 years ago or whatever. And now the humans are trying to learn about their technology so they can defeat them. So the main character, the human, figures out that all of their motors for all their equipment, their aircraft, their mining equipment, anything that runs, that transports or moves, runs on what they call teleportation motors. So apparently the fabric of space-time resists change. So the teleportation motor tries to create a change, and it functions on the resistance that space-time puts up to the change. So it tries to change it, but it doesn't. And space-time moves the vehicle. Well, it actually moves the motor, and the vehicle moves with the motor because the motor is attached to the vehicle. But it moves based on the resistance that space-time puts up to being changed. And yeah, that was interesting to me. It's like maybe that's got some roots in fact.
Yeah, I mean, and again, just to kind of finish up with Carr, apparently he was later charged with fraud and theft of $50,000. He was unable to pay his bail, and he was issued a 14-year sentence. Like, sounds like the hammer fell on this guy.
Yeah, and it was something to do with the SEC, wasn't it? The Securities and Exchange Commission. They tried to get him because they said something, he was something about his investors, and he was lying and selling shit or whatever.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do remember that conversation about him a few months ago, but worth briefly talking about again, just to
It was
refresh.
actually, I think it was almost a year ago when we did this episode.
Might be.
But yeah, it was they did this guy dirty. And if they had, instead of uh instead of throwing his ass in prison and being a complete asshole to him, if they had embraced him and supported him and helped him to innovate and produce his product, we'd be living in an entirely different world right now. There wouldn't be an airline industry, number one. There wouldn't be an oil industry. The fucking Gulf War, the Middle East wars, I don't think would have ever happened.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's something.
Yeah, I mean, because we wouldn't have a fossil fuel industry right now. Like, there would be no airlines. Like, these major jet fueled jumbo jets would be a thing of the past, or they never would have existed at all. I mean, well, yeah, they had jets in the 50s, so, but they would have went the way of, they would have been obsolete rather quickly if they had supported this guy.
Yes.
So
yeah, that is something.
yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand this. Look, why don't the oil companies, the big oil, why don't they buy these patents and build them themselves? Why do they suppress the technology? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I mean, look, every industry's had to go through that for the centuries. I mean, I remember watching a very interesting documentary talking about kind of the conflict when electricity was coming on the scene, and obviously early electricity was pretty haphazard and dangerous, and so the manufacturers of like lamp lighting and whale blubber, which obviously was utilized to help light lamps,
Yeah, I mean,
pointed out.
but the suppression makes no sense to me. Like, look, like Nikola Tesla, for example, you mentioned the advent of electricity and how it was, well, it was pretty much a competition between Tesla's AC and what was his name, Edison's DC. But all that happened, right? Tesla lost financially, but his idea moved on, and we now live in a AC world. Everybody's power grid is alternating current. It's not Edison's direct current, the way your car runs on direct current, or anything that's battery operated is direct current, unless you have a power converter or inverter or whatever you call them. But why did they suppressed Tesla to the point where, I mean, I don't know about you, but I never heard of Tesla or even the name Tesla other than when I played the old game Command and Conquer, and you could build the experimental unit, the Tesla coil. That's the only time I ever even heard the name Tesla. And I didn't know where it came from or anything. I didn't learn this in school. I found this out later. You know what I mean? Nikola Tesla never heard of him until, I was an adult and I was able to do things. He was completely suppressed and eliminated from the history books as far as, public education goes anyway. Why? This man was a fucking genius. Like, he was light years beyond Einstein. Makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, again, just they'd save themselves a lot of time and effort. Just buy the patents and or pay for the patents from the person who invented it and move on. Like, and then you can diversify your company's
Did you
stock
know
portfolio.
did you know when he died, the FBI raided his apartment and they took everything. And guess who, like the head investigator there that was in charge of everything they got out of his apartment? Guess who it was?
Oh.
Granddaddy Trump.
Oh, smokes.
Don't know that.
crazy.
Didn't know that, huh?
No.
Granddaddy Trump. He was in charge of the whole project, taking Tesla's shit.
What the heck?
Makes no sense to me at all. So I mean,
again,
like I like, well, you know, there's a lot of things that Trump did that I don't agree with, but that's fine. But the way Trump is, I don't like. I'm starting to wonder why. He's connected, you know, with the whole system, like the mainstream system. He has to be. I mean, like these people that run our society worldwide, they're all about bloodlines and connections. And if Granddaddy Trump was connected in that way, then that carried down the bloodline to him. He's connected.
yes. I mean,
If it's
they
true,
have-
I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is, then he's connected.
yeah. I guess at the end of the day, you look at the two gentlemen we talked about, and the unfortunate saps, and it's like, honestly, if I run Chevron, I'm like, oh, that sounds great. If it works, here's a check. I don't know.
You know what though? Like if I had the money, like say I won the Powerball right now and I had like $700 million or whatever, I would I would build, like, say if I knew how, I would build my electric or my hydrogen car, right? I'd be very local about it, very quiet. I wouldn't let it get out to national news. Okay. I'd demonstrate it to my community and say, look, see, this is how it works. Drive it around. I would then attempt to build a few more and sell them to people around here and slowly expand. Once the technology was out and maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 people maybe had them, then it would be real hard for them to kill me because the product's already out there.
That's true.
I think the mistake that they made was they tried to go national with it way too quick.
Yeah, I thought the one guy patented it in like 2018.
Well, either that or I'd build one, right? And then I would just sell it to some corporation and take my money and run. Sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'll never breathe a word of this again.
Send me a secret thank you card every year.
Nah, you know what? I would much rather be responsible for putting the technology out there than to make a shit ton of money and just run away with it and stay quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody who came out with an energy technology like that would be famous in the history books for 1,000 years. Like your name would be like 500, like if you came out with that 500 years from now, your name would be on somebody's pop quiz.
Yeah, that would be the impact.
Yep.
It'd be pretty crazy.
Because I mean, it's mostly because like this technology would be rudimentary and crude, but it would lead to other technologies that would change life as we know it. You know what I mean? Like it starts with internal combustion engines, but it would lead to other things. And, that's why I don't understand why they're trying so hard to suppress it, especially when they come out of the other side of their mouth and talk about climate change and protecting the earth and saving the environment, when clearly they're not serious about it, because this is the cleanest energy source and most efficient energy source that we know of. And that's mainstream science. So, clearly they're not serious people.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell who really had the trigger pulled, whether it was big government or big oil or a collusion. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was either big oil or the auto industry, or both. Maybe they collaborated, but
Could be those powerful people.
yeah. I mean, the auto industry combined with oil, like you said, oil is would you say a $3 billion a day industry? So, I mean, that's a hell of a lot of money.
For the past 50 years.
Yeah, that's insane. It's a lot of money. So, but then there's 0 point energy, which we're not really going to get into because we're already way into it for tonight, but maybe some other episode. But that's basically just drawing fucking electricity out of the space around you wirelessly. And Tesla had a design for it, but like I said, it was seized when he died and it never saw the light of day again. So, yep. So if you want to find us or send us an email, supernaturalbeerbros@gmail.com. You can send me a DM on Instagram at SBBpod. And we're on every major podcast platform: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google. We're on all of it. And that's just about it. You got anything else, Ben?
No, sir, you covered it.
All right, then. This has been the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast, and Ben and I are signing out.